Chapter 7, Top of the CNN Center. The Pathfinder sailed in slowly, hovering just above the top of the CNN Center. The team used the ropes again to rappel down to the roof and landed with a quiet thud. There was a cool breeze coming in from the east that helped mask their movements. Once on the roof, they spread out looking in all directions. Ryder decided to keep Bites on the ship to continue to work through the terminal information to see if he could find anything else of value. Bullet moved forward, finding the ventilation shaft that used to house a fan. At the moment, it was covered by an old piece of plywood, probably to protect against the weather. He put his rifle away and used a mechanical tool to remove the 3 screws that were holding it in place. With those removed, the Bees twins took the plywood off and set it aside. There was a dim light coming up from the shaft. Jewel stuck a small snake camera down the shaft and then pulled out her handheld. She controlled the camera and went lower, looking for any guards. It was 0400 hours, and it seemed as if no one was about. The screen showed them there were piles of old furniture just below them. It was a good place to go down, as they could use the furniture as cover once they were on the ground. The Bees twins quickly secured the 600 feet of rope to the shaft and then threw the rest down inside. Bullet was the first down. He made quick work of the distance and radioed back to the group. "This is Bullet. I am down. Good cover here and no sign of opposition." The Bees twins went down in unison, followed closely by Ryder and Jewel. Once they were on the ground, they began the slow descent toward the main area, which was 1 floor down. They went in a pyramid formation with Bullet at the front. They moved slowly, precisely, making sure not to make any noise. When Bullet got close to the overlook, which was the old food and retail area, he raised a fist, and everyone stopped and faced out, maintaining a proper guard position. Over Ryder's earpiece, he heard, "Sir, it looks like we have a tripwire here. I guess they would have to use some sort of security to protect this area since it is so exposed." "Can you disable it?" Ryder asked. "Sir, it is probably best if we just leave it and move on. I am marking the floor around it with a glow-in-the-dark paint so everyone can avoid it," Bullet said with conviction. "Understood, Bullet. Proceed." Bullet marked around the tripwire and proceeded, soon reaching the overlook railing. He peered over slowly, using his night vision goggles to look for guards. Ryder waited while Bullet completed the survey of the area. "Sir, I see no guards. I am seeing a few tripwires and motion sensors on the floor, and we won't be able to get past them. There appears to be a light in the conference room up there. One man is sitting outside the room. He is smoking a cigarette, if you can believe it. If he is the only guard on duty, this is going to be easy." Ryder was surprised by this. With the light from the conference room and the guard smoking a cigarette, he was making himself an easy target in the dark. And he probably didn't have much night vision with the light from the room. However, the motion sensors and tripwires made sense, especially if they didn't have a large army to protect this area. It was what he did back in the library in Denver to ensure he knew when enemies arrived. Ryder sent a quick message to Bites to see if he could help with the motion sensors. Ryder signaled the team to wait. 10 minutes later, he got a message from Bites that the motion sensors were deactivated. While they would still appear to be working, no one would be notified if they were set off. "Okay, Bullet, set up the rope. You will go first, and I will follow. Bees twins and Jewel, you will cover us from up here until we are sure we can reach the escalator safely. Jewel, please keep your sights on that guard and be ready to fire if he looks at all like he will sound an alarm about our presence." The team clicked once to confirm they heard and understood. Bullet already had the rope tied and was to go over the side when Ryder arrived, followed closely by the rest of the team. They crouched low behind the railing, just in case others were watching. Jewel handed Ryder a pair of night vision goggles and he looked around. He confirmed everything Bullet observed. It appeared that only one guard was sitting in a chair up in front of the conference room. If this were true, the team could almost reach him before he even reacted. He hoped the rest of the guards practiced such poor tactics. Smoking a cigarette made an easy target in the dark, because as soon as you took a drag, it would give the enemy a light to target and would get you shot in the face. It was time for Ryder to make a decision. Could it be as easy as it appeared? Ryan questioned himself. It just seems strange. It all was a little too easy. However, we need to complete this mission. That was the commander's orders. There was no one better for this than his team, Ryder thought. With one sweep of the area with the night vision goggles, he took a breath and gave Bullet the signal. Bullet nodded and dropped the rope over the side slowly so as it just reached the floor below. Jewel already had the guard in her sights. The Bees twins had their rifles raised, but they were using their own goggles to look back, above, and all around for targets or dangers. Bullet pulled himself over the railing, and he was on the rope in a moment. He slithered his way down and landed softly on the concourse floor. No movement, nothing. He moved a few feet away from the rope and examined the area. Sir, area all clear. There are no combatants to be seen. Okay, Bullet, Ryder whispered. I'm coming down. Ryder handed the goggles back to Jewel and lifted himself over the railing and onto the rope. He slithered down as quietly as possible, reaching the bottom moments later. Bullet pointed the way and started across the concourse, ensuring that he stepped over the tripwires. They were spaced so that anyone running across the floor would set them off. However, moving stealthily like this, they should be able to avoid the alarms even though they were off. Then Ryder heard the sound of something skitter across the floor. Too late to react. A concussion and flash grenade exploded, blinding him and forcing him to his knees. Then he heard gunfire all around him. He looked up to see more than a dozen soldiers with rifles leaning over the railing on the upper floor where the guards were sitting. More soldiers appeared on the balconies all around him. He looked to Bullet, but he wasn't next to him anymore. He was lying on the ground and was shot several times, with blood coming out of his mouth. He yelled into the mic, "Team, retreat! Retreat! We are outnumbered!" He got up to move, but then another stun grenade exploded right next to him, and he went down. As he fell on his back, his head was spinning. The last thing he saw was Jewel looking down at him from above. She was saying something, but he couldn't make it out before he blacked out. Chapter 8. Outside the USS Gemini. A few days after the repair on the Hawk, Cooper found himself deep inside the inner workings of an engine tube. This ship was of a Chinese design and was attacked by the Blackbeards. The engine compartment was a mess of wires, as the engineers pulled from systems all over the ship to get enough propulsion to make it back to Gemini. Johnson warned him at the beginning that there was a chance they might not be able to get the main propulsion system running again. Luckily, another Chinese ship arrived the previous week from a trip around Jupiter, so there were similar parts that could be used. They weren't the exact parts, but Johnson hoped they might be able to fit. Johnson was working on the life support systems, so Cooper was all alone at the moment. Well, he was never really alone. Are you there, Cooper? Simon inquired. I am, Simon. I am just trying to maneuver myself into a position to replace this component. Cooper was surprised how quickly he adapted to using the AI. It was almost like it could anticipate his needs. Cooper, here is the schematic for that area of the propulsion system. It looks like you should remove the generator piece here. Simon overlaid a schematic across his screen that matched up with what he was seeing in the engine compartment. Augmented reality is so cool, Cooper thought. As he moved his head, the schematic moved with him. Wow, thought Cooper, this should make this repair a lot easier. Why didn't they have anything like this in BASIC, he wondered. He pulled out his wrench and went to work trying to remove the burned out part. It was fused pretty tightly due to the heat from a fire that occurred in the area during the fight with the space pirates. He set the wrench to the highest torque and tried again. This time the bolt came free, and he went to the next one. It took some time to get all the bolts off, but then he removed the generator, and a cloud of dust and dirt erupted around him and just floated there in front of his helmet. Then he heard a voice in his intercom. I got it, Cooper, and a small hose came out from the suit and blew the dust away. I am sorry, I am unable to suck up the dust since we are in a vacuum right now. It won't work. Thank you, Simon, for clearing the view for me anyway, Cooper said. My pleasure, Cooper. Cooper used his free hand to move himself back along the engine tube until he returned to the engine floor. He put the burned out generator down on the floor and picked up the other one that Johnson had given him to install. Then it was back in the tube to install the new generator. As he was guiding himself back into the tube, he heard Johnson through the helmet. Richardson, how you doing? It took Cooper a moment to get in position, and then he responded. I got the old generator off, and I'm about to install the new one. Good, she said. I'm almost done out here with my repairs. There are some more parts we need, but we don't have them in stock. Looks like we might be headed out to the graveyard. Cooper frowned and wondered what she was talking about, so he asked, Graveyard? He heard her giggle, and then she said, "Yeah, you will find out soon enough." Cooper decided he probably wasn't going to get more out of her, so he went back to work getting the new generator in and hooking it up. It took a while to get it all fitted properly. When he was finished, he called Johnson on the speaker. "Johnson, I'm done. What now?" "Okay. Before you come out, turn your helmet on and take a video of the area around the generator. We need to see what other parts we still need to make this repair," Johnson ordered before signing off. Cooper said, "Simon." "Yes, Cooper." "Can you please turn the helmet lights on and take a video of the surrounding area?" "Certainly, Cooper." The helmet lights came on and the engine tube was bathed in a bright light that made Cooper blink. In a couple of minutes the lights went out and Simon said, "All done, Cooper. I have sent the file to Tracy, Specialist Johnson's onboard computer." "Thanks again, Simon." "My pleasure," responded Simon. Climbing out of the engine tube, Cooper arrived just as Johnson was returning from her work on the life support systems. "All set?" she asked through the helmet speaker. Cooper showed her a thumbs up, and they floated out toward the airlock on the ship. When they arrived, Johnson pushed some buttons, and the system pressurized. The door opened, and they were in a long, narrow hallway. The two opened their helmets, and they retracted to the backs. They floated down the hallway. This was one of the hallways in the docking center that allowed ships to connect directly to Gemini. As Cooper learned during his short time in the motor pool, some ships received special treatment, like the one they were working on. This allowed the occupants of the ship to come and go into Gemini easily without a spacesuit. But other independent families, like the Hawk, were only qualified for outside docking, and the occupants needed to use a small shuttle to get back and forth, or a spacesuit. "So, when do you think the ship will be able to fly again?" Cooper asked as they were floating down the hallway. "Well, we got some good work done today. I think we'll be able to turn on the life support systems tomorrow, which will make our work go easier. But the engine is going to require more repairs. Once we get life support on, the rest of the team can go to work." "So, what is the graveyard?" Cooper asked again. "You will find out soon enough," Johnson said, pushing him away from her and smiling. "I will see you tomorrow." With that, Johnson grabbed the handhelds and shot herself down the hallway faster than Cooper had seen anyone else maneuver before. "She is definitely an expert in space life," thought Cooper, as his admiration for her grew even more.